However, this is an old piece. This piece is pre-AI. When it was number one, that's when AI was getting its data set. So the chances that AI used Rafael's piece to learn as part of the data set and now is telling us that Rafael's piece is a copy of himself is quite funny. You want to see how I know? But the fun part is if I throw this article into Originality.ai, it says that it has a 77% of it is AI. If we run it through undetectable, it says, nah, this is AI for show. So today we're doing an absolutely in-depth SEO audit, complete site tear down, and a plan for success for OhioTropics.com by author Raffaele De Lallo. Raffaele has been featured in absolutely everywhere. He is a 3 times author, has published Houseplant Warrior, where the New York Times call him a master problem solver. He also published Moth Orchid Mastery, as well as Essential Houseplants. Raffaele has been growing this blog for a very long time. He has gathered a very solid social media following with over 200,000 subscribers. His videos are fantastic and his knowledge of the subject is unparalleled. So he is, by all accounts, an industry expert. Is somebody that you would consider has EEAT, expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. He also publishes on YouTube, channel that I very much recommend you to follow if you are into plants, where he publishes really cool, cute, funny videos that are filled with practical tips on taking care of any kind of plants that you can imagine. So why am I mentioning all of this other than just to say that I love what he does because I'm super into the niche? The reason I'm sharing all of this is because it really matters when we see this. This is Rafaele's organic traffic since the helpful content update, right here, right here. I will go in this audit into his technical SEO, his on-page SEO, and his off-page SEO to show you that the helpful content update wasn't at all about being helpful, and it was more about being helpful to Google, which is a little bit of a difference. And there's certain ways that you can get a site that is perfectly sound in terms of the content. If you got impacted in the HCU, this video is for you. Go through the entire video. There's going to be plenty of golden nuggets. I have spent the last 31 hours going through the entirety of the website, crawling it with every single tool imaginable, going through 8 years of experience of auditing websites, and I've put everything I know about making content sites great on this video. So let's get us started. Why did Rafael get hit on the helpful content update? And it seems, although there's a bit of nuance here, that he might have got impacted again on the update from just 6 days ago. Now I say it seems and there is nuance because Ahrefs also updated the keyword database. So don't be scared if you see a big drop here. It might not mean anything at all. Okay, so we've done a very brief brand overview, and I like to always start with this section because it's very important for us to have a look at like, who are we working with? What's this site about? How well established are they? How long have they been on the game? Do they have EEAT? Can I trust the content in general? Do they look the part, which is an area where I think Raffaele has a lot of room for improvement? And in general, how easy it is for me as a user to find the information that I'm looking for, but also how well is this presented for search engines? They're two completely separate things. One is for users, one is for search engines. You can do this thing wrong and still win in SEO, but you cannot do the search engine part wrong and still win at SEO. And this is one place where it kind of really breaks my heart because I see publishers like Raffaele that are actual experts in the subject matter that have been publishing fantastic content for very many years, and still they got hit on the last 1 to 3 updates. And it's not because the content isn't great. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you that all his content passes AI detector tools, but the content that's right now outranking him is not passing AI detection tools. And so when Google says, hey, we just roll out this big update that's going to wipe up all the AI content, don't be so sure. And also that opens a window of opportunity for you, if you are an expert in your subject matter, to use AI to your favor in order to flesh out content that then you can make sure that does serve your audience when we get there. For reference, throughout this entire audit, I'll be using this, which is completely free, and you can get on the comments below. Yes, I might ask you for your email in exchange for that, and if I do, I'll send you more videos like this and cool guides and SEO tips and tricks for free. So I hope that you'll find it valuable. Section número 1, technical SEO. Technical SEO is the absolute foundation of the success of any project. If you get your technical SEO wrong, the house that you build on top is not really going to stick, and whatever links you throw to that won't really have the effect that you want them to. I'm going to spend most of my time here with technical SEO and on-page SEO because it's what I think this website has the highest room for improvement. However, there is a whole section on off-page SEO, which is where I think this website got the most damage done to it. For context, Raffaele publishes his own content, has never used AI, and has never bought links, right? I spoke with him. He is a proper good boy publisher, has never done anything against Google guidelines. So the fact that he got hit on the latest updates, it's actually quite infuriating, because then you will see in parts of these audits, because I have found out all the websites that aren't original. Matter of fact, it's very possible that the GPT bot scanned Raphael's website before the AI was released, and a whole bunch of other sites are just using AI content that might have read Raffaele's website to learn. This is all hypothesis, but let's get us started. So we are going to skip most of the basic checklist for technical SEO. It's pretty basic stuff that I'll be doing videos on all of it, teach you how to do it. I will show you some of the things like the sitemaps and the robots.txt, which are here, which are very important. And I'll show you what's what. I'm going to check the Lighthouse report as well as the core web vitals, and then we're going to get into the meatier part here, which is where I think the site has a lot of room for improvement. So let's get us started. First thing we're going to do, quick assessment of Search Console. Typically Fridays, as you see here, aren't a peak day. Saturday, Sunday, which is the weekend, which is when people like me have time to do gardening, are higher traffic days, but we don't have that data just yet. I'm recording this on a Sunday night because, hey, gotta love the SEO grind. What's the index size? Are there any big issues here? We have 559 index pages and 369 posts, which means that he's got a bloat of just about 200 URLs. I'm simplifying the numbers here. Now, in a website with 500 pages on the index, 200 a very large proportion. Okay, my top of the head math is not great, but it's about 40% of the website. So 40% of the index website isn't Google worthy. That will in general affect the website, but it's not as important, or it's not as ugly as the numbers sound. If Raffaele's site had 1 million URLs and 40% were worthless, yes, there will be a lot of costs for Google in terms of crawl budget being wasted, but we're talking about a couple hundred URLs. It's a very, very small amount, even if in proportion is large, which sure does point us to the idea that we have to fix it. It's not something that I think is a major issue. Next file I'm going to check here is always the robots.txt. I see that we are disallowing some tags category pages. This is a little bit of an old-fashioned way to do it, and there's a bit more modern ways to do it, which is fine. He is disallowing the GPT bot because he doesn't want his content stolen without consent, which is very much understandable, and it has a link to the sitemap as he should. Okay, so in principle, this should be preventing tag categories and paginated pages from being indexed, which is happening. Is in fact being not indexed, but there's some other URLs that are getting added there that we need to take care of. So if we come here and we just look briefly at the index pages, we see that he's also publishing web stories, and those are getting indexed. So that's not something that appears on the sitemap because he doesn't have a sitemap for web stories. That's interesting. Some categories are being indexed and some tags sneak through. So even though they're being disallowed, they are being indexed. The proper way to do this now is to go into rank math and going for the entire taxonomy of tags and setting it to no index, and then removing the disallow command on the robots.txt file. After that, we will come here into removals And we just remove the entire subfolder by going to new request, and then we go here, all the URLs with this prefix, and we go /tag and Bob's your uncle. We hit next. I've only been hired to do an audit, so for now I won't execute on this, but this is the way that you would do it. The rest is web stories, which are fine. So realistically, we don't have that much of a problem. It's just that the web stories don't have a sitemap, which could point us, if we don't do an in-depth analysis, to the idea that, hey, we have auto-upload, when in reality, maybe there's like 30 or 40 tags that we have to remove. And there's a quick way to fix it, which I just covered, so we can move on into the next bit. Any site that you have any kind of in-depth look since the update 6 days ago, you want to come here and hit manual actions and make sure that the site doesn't have any. Beautiful. Next, we're going to come into settings and we're going to go to the scroll stats. This is a very important number that I always want to look into, is the average response time, or the time to first byte. This is how long it takes the server to send the index.php file. In general, I see that the time to first byte is pretty good, is around the 200 milliseconds. I always want to see my sites under 200 milliseconds, ideally under like 150 milliseconds is best, and it's perfectly doable with WordPress. That was the first service that I ever offered, which I still do. Hey, if you want me to make your site super fast as this site here or this other site here, so that both Google and users will absolutely love your site, get in touch using the link in the description box below. Special discount for YouTube subscribers. This is the main reason you want to make your site super fast. Google spends a tremendous amount of money crawling the entire internet to find as much websites as possible and really build out the index to give you the best answer possible. Well, sometimes it doesn't work. When your site can be fetched very quickly, it's resource effective. When your site is very slow, it's resource ineffective. One of the main reasons Google is de-indexing AI spammy sites, it's not so much because they make results bad for users, which is true. It's because for Google to crawl a site with 1 million URLs produced by programmatic SEO and AI costs them a ton of crawl resources. And then if that site is garbage, then it doesn't fulfill the intent of the users. Google is not really going to get a lot of ad money from that because the engagement is going to be very low, and in general is going to devalue their product, the search product. So instead, those very resource intensive sites are being completely de-indexed. If you're a small time publisher, and by a small time I mean you have less than 100,000 URLs in your index, which for most people that publish their own content by hand because they're subject matter experts, that's probably your case. Yes, any site under like 10,000 URLs is very small. Right? You don't have to worry about this in general, right? What you do have to worry about it is errors like this. So any kind of response type that isn't an OK 200, so 301s, 304s, 404s, and particularly 500 errors. But next, what do we see here? He's got 426 pages getting any sort of organic traffic. So if you come to the list here in Ahrefs and you hit traffic and you order it by lowest amount of traffic, you will see here some of the URLs that aren't really getting anything. Next, I always want to have a quick look at which pages are having the highest amount of positive change in comparison to whenever. So in this particular case, I'm looking against, a year ago, but in general, I recommend you to look at whenever was the peak traffic. So I will go to the 11th of September. And you can just come here, say custom date. And so in comparison to whenever the site was at peak traffic here, I see a whole bunch of pages doing way better than before. Where is most of the traffic loss coming from? You shuffle it this way as well. And you can do the same in analytics, and it's best to do it this way. But here I can show you way more. GA4 is cumbersome. It will take me 17 different jumps to do the same. This is the fastest way to do it. So Portos varieties, Monstera Deliciosa, and Propagating the String of Pearls are the sites that, if we look in proportion, have lost the highest amount of keywords as well in some of these cases, and most of the organic traffic. Now you always have to cross-reference this with analytics, which I've already done, it's fine. These are the 3 main URLs where I will start doing my on-page investigation to see whether they actually deserve to drop and what else could be done. Before we get into the meaty parts, let's do a general site overview so we can get a feeling of what do we see straight away that's being done right and what do we see straight away that can be done better. The first thing that I see in general is the design of the homepage looks a little bit dated and could do with a more professional, modern presentation here. The menu on the footer isn't too comprehensive. It does have privacy policy terms and conditions, which is fine. All sites have to have it, although these terms and conditions doesn't really open anything, right? So that's a bit of a missed opportunity. It does have a very comprehensive about page in order to establish proper EAT, but I don't like having the Amazon Associates disclosure there. What I would do is I would put that disclosure into a dedicated page alongside with any other kind of disclosures that this particular publisher would have to show because of any other affiliate programs that he's part of. So when we look here in terms of establishing EAT, he links to other properties where, like I mentioned earlier, you can definitely see that Rafael is a very real person and that he knows his stuff, which is what EAT stands for. We can also see the books that he has published, as well as the different very big time publications that have mentioned him: Spruce, Apartment Therapy, Country Living Magazine, and so on and so forth. He's been on TV talking about what he loves, and I don't know how much more EAT you want. Yet, he got hit. So a few things that we see here. Some of his social media links here don't work properly. The Facebook one prompts us to the wrong place, and the YouTube one doesn't work. So little things like this matter because users will have a frustrating experience. And when you are as big as Rafael is in social media, you want to make sure that the connection is very quick and easy. So I would love to just hit all of this, and then I had to actually search for him on YouTube to show this on the video because the click from the website is not direct. Next thing that I would love to see is a very comprehensive footer menu with all the legal stuff, the logo, like a newsletter sign up, because if you enjoy the content and you get to the bottom of an article, most likely I'm going to drop my email and please send me more houseplant tips. Okay. What else do we see? Top menu. It has 3 main content categories with already a good amount of content, but for the amount of content that he has, and I've done a more in-depth analysis of the crawl depth using Sidebulb. You can use a Screaming Frog if you like an uglier user experience, and I found out that he has opportunity to do a much more comprehensive navigation, which I will cover in a second. Being awarded the top 25th Houseplant blogs is fantastic. I will probably just put it on the about and make a sidebar that is more for the user, because this one feels a bit more for the publisher. Some good things that I always like to have on the sidebar: if you're gonna do a traditional sidebar for publisher run business, have a micro bio with a photo of yourself and a link to the about. That's always fine, right? Fake sites also have it, but I'll show you a fake site later and you'll see what the difference is. Then immediately I like to show the most popular content. I would, by all accounts, show the cover of the book and have a clear call to action to go and buy Houseplant Warrior. 100% have it on the sidebar and go directly to Amazon or any other ones of these, different places where you can get it. That's up to the publisher. And then I will show up here a conditional sidebar that shows me the top 5 most popular or latest published content, pieces of content in the subsection that I'm on. So if I am reading an article on humidity control, I would love to see 5 to 6, 7 pieces perhaps of content here that also have to do with this. If I'm reading an article on watering, right, I would like to see like how much to water certain plants. I would like to see a whole bunch of other guides here. I'm obviously interested on the niche, so I'm going to get more clicks, more pages per session, and ultimately he will make more ad money, more subscribers, rank rate will be happier, and everybody wins. Next, I see a link here to a shop linking to a whole bunch of categories here within an Amazon shop. This is, in my opinion, a little bit outdated in terms of the experience. Could be good to have, but I wouldn't have it there. If he's seeing significant revenue from this, then I would have it on a secondary menu alongside also with the about, contact, and a few other of the main pages like in the media. As we progress on the audit, what I do is I always start writing some of the most important bits that I cover in my action plan file. This is the file that the client will receive with everything that I will dissect on this video at a relatively surface level, just to give main indications on how to implement certain things, how to get certain data. But whenever I do one of these professional audits, clients always receive a comprehensive list with the main summary points of the most important things that they have to do, way by priority and by impact and so forth, and as well how to do it, where to do it. Sometimes it's covered on the video and sometimes it's covered in a separate piece of documentation that I send them, like the complete breakdown of recommended site navigation that I've added, that I will add in the document, and I'll show you in just a minute. If you've hit a plateau with your SEO, or if you've been losing traffic in the last updates and you would like me to have a quick look into your website and tell you everything that I can see, all the quick wins, all the long hanging fruit, before you do a full scope professional audit just like this one, you will find a link in the description box below, as well as on the pinned comment, when you can book a quick 30-minute call with me to go through all your SEO strategy, your current challenges, and you will be armed at the end of it with clarity to know exactly what the next best steps for your SEO are. Click on the link on the description box below and I'll see you on the other side. So far, we've already covered a few things. We're gonna have some indexability issues here that we have to fix. There's a few 500 errors. Content hierarchies I will show you in a minute. Crawl depth issues. What is this? This is a sideboard audit. It's like Screaming Frog, but less ugly. And it basically covers what's the crawl depth of this website. Now, fortunately, this publisher doesn't have any orphan pages, which is pretty good. However, what we do find is, realistically, in a very cool crawl map, everything will end up at 4 clicks. 5 some pages maybe could be justified, but it's not ideal. With good navigation, good recommended content on the sidebar, good recommended content on the footer, plus internal links, the entire site could really be made available just 3 clicks away from the homepage, either on the menu or as I crawl into different pieces when everything is nicely structured. However, when I see so many pages here that are crawl depth 4 or 5, and there's a big dip here where like a lot of things are available directly on the homepage or on the menu, and then from there I have to go to one article, and then through internal links, I may be able to access most of the website. This is going to be inefficient for the crawler. The crawler will have a hard time going from one page to the other, establishing the proper connections between entities. So if this article is about Sansevieria, then what's all the other articles about that plant? If this article is about humidity control, everything that I need to know about humidity control, how many times do I have to jump to find it? If I can find from one piece about a main topic, let's say it's humidity control or soil, from the main pillar piece on soil, I can access everything within soil, the best potting soils, the best mixes, what's the right soil for this, what's the right soil for that, then I will be great as a user, but also the crawler will have an easier time. This all matters when it comes to establishing topical authority. It's one thing to have the content on your site, but how you have the content arranged within your website is just as important. With proper implementation of content hierarchies and some improvements that I will recommend for the internal links, I believe Raffaele can do a great job at fixing this in one go. Another thing that also depends on setting up good content hierarchies is implementing breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs are good for user navigation. Some people hate them. I don't know why. They allow you to go back and forth within the website and find a lot more related content. So if I land on search on a piece that is 4 levels deep, because it's a very narrow idea that covers just a very super specific keyword that's long tail, I can quickly go through the breadcrumbs and find everything that I'm looking for. But Raffaele doesn't have it implemented. Then there's going to be a few other things that I won't bore you with, but things like, do you have all text in all your images, particularly images that also have a link? That's all going to be covered here in the different columns. Each and every single one of the little technical issues has been addressed, documented, and I will cover in the written documentation that I sent to the clients exactly how to address it one by one. In terms of priority, it's been way down here. So there's going to be things that are high impact, like doing a backlink profile cleanup, and I'll show you why it's high impact in a minute. Or things that are a bit of lower impact, like creating a reviews page. That could be good for social proof, but it's more like a nice to have, right? I always add those things because in general, in an all-encompassing campaign, they matter. And whenever I do an audit for a client, I want the client to be equipped for them to be able to work for multiple months on their website, from high priority to low priority, one by one, checking the boxes and increasingly making the site better. Whenever the next update comes along, they can be in a better shape. Now, if the next update that comes along is like the latest content update that they did in March and is garbage, then well, we might have to be a bit more patient and implement a few of the things that I believe can be done. Next up, content. I'm going to refer back here to my on-page SEO checklist. As you can see, it's rather comprehensive and it covers a whole bunch of things that publishers should be doing with their pieces of content. These are the 3 most impacted URLs, and I'm going to do a complete dissection of this content. Okay, we have the author link here. When I click on this link, it takes me to the right place, which is the about page, as it should. Fantastic. It says some of the links on this post might be affiliate links, but when I click here, it takes me to a different website. This should be self-hosted in my opinion, and it should have everything about this, which has. So I don't know why this is on a different place. And that way we don't have to send the user to a different website. They can stay within the site and then just go back to where they were. This is a little bit of an older school of way to doing it, where we have an image that's basically the big pin that gets done. Normally, I like to move away from this and just add a more illustrative photograph only without the text and in a narrower format. So I always do the intro photos I do here now, do them landscape. Yes, you get more scroll rate this way, but it doesn't address the intent so quickly. I see what looks like a hand inserted table of contents here, which let's see if it's properly structured. Yeah, okay, table of contents, boom, 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 H2s, H3s, analytical, beautiful, some closing notes, some photo types. Now, something I don't like is the abuse of all caps. It's gonna make the reading experience a little bit cumbersome. Got more internal links here that are very easy to see and click, which is very good. Whole bunch of unique photography, fantastic. In terms of the vividness and the quality of the content for a niche that is as visual as this one, it's absolutely fantastic. I have nothing to comment against this, other than in general, I'd like the fonts to be a little bit nicer, softer, more modern, and no use of all caps. In general, like if you see the content box here in desktop is quite narrow. If we go and we see the mobile version, then I see here a CTA for an affiliate, which is okay. But one of the things that I mentioned later on this list is ideally I would like Rafael to see him plugging himself way earlier down the list here. So one tool that you can use, which I cover here, is Microsoft Clarity. Clarity is fantastic. You can install it on your website for free. It takes very little resources and it gets you heat maps as well as user session recordings. And you can look at every single page of content on your site and see how far do people scroll, where do they bounce, so you know, okay, where am I losing attention, where should I be adding my CTA for people to join my email list, to buy my book, whatever it is. You can do it using Microsoft Clarity. See that I'm doing this entire review of the content. I'm at the bottom now. I see a whole bunch of links here, ton of internal links, very good. They're also nicely spaced throughout the content. Now, one thing that I would mention is just make sure that you keep your apples and your chainsaws separate. So if we're talking about pothos here, I would only like links to other pothos or plants within their family. If, what I'm seeing here, basically, so this is well done. If at some point I talk about the right soil for pothos, like, oh, this pothos is beautiful, but it has a particular thing when you need to use the right soil, or it's going to die very easily, then link me for the best potting soils for pothos and other common plants, right? This I don't like is the next and previous articles. So we're linking from an article in pothos to Sansevieria flowers and Monstera varieties. Yes, everything is within houseplants, but ideally I want to see either A, more pothos content, or other varieties content. So Monstera varieties, this is fine, but this is not. From a user experience point of view, something else that I like to see is how long is it going to take me to read this article. And when it's an article that's very long, maybe on the sidebar you can add a custom unit that says download a PDF version of these for free. And some people will take the offer, they give you the email, they get added to the list, you send them an email every other day with more beautiful content, and they get a PDF version of this that is abridged with a whole bunch of photographs, or maybe it's just photographs, like get a visual guide for this, and it's the 17 types just with photos and one line that describes the name. Done. Super easy to put together as well with AI. Quick technical check as well for this. Excusen mi español, Page speed index always loads in Spanish for me, but basically what I see is the site is passing all the speed stuff here, even though the time to first byte did load quite high for this particular test. So I'd like to see whether the server is being a little bit overloaded. Maybe it has a lot of old files on the server, images that have been compressed, and also the uncompressed version is being saved there. Maybe it needs to upgrade the server. Some issues here is that the buttons don't have accessible names. Certain content on iframes is also not titled. Now I've run this page through Surfer SEO, which is a fantastic tool that I recommend you to get a copy. And I see that in general the score is pretty good, although that doesn't really mean so much. This is one of the parts that I like the most, is the NLP optimization. And I'm always going to look at some of the things that it says that I have to remove, meaning I've probably over-optimized my content, but most importantly, stuff that I have to add. So instances where I have 0, so nowhere I'm mentioning Baltic blue potos. If that is a variety that somebody else on the top 3 is covering and I haven't mentioned this type of potos, I know I have to add it for my content to sincerely be the best. Silver satin potos here, snow queen potos, but it's suggested to have these a whole ton of times, and we don't have it anywhere. So that could be one of those related semantic entities that we need to have in our content and we don't have. We definitely mentioned the golden yellow variegation, but we aren't mentioning some of the other things like the white variegation. Seems to be a term that is popular in some of the articles that are doing very well. Same as all these other ones here. So this is a list that you can export, open side by side, throw your article into an AI tool, throw this list into a different AI tool, give it a few of the sections that say, hey, I want to include a section for this, and this variety of potos. Please expand using the same voice. It's going to give you some fleshed out content, and then you, as the human expert, you edit, and it might make your process faster. Not the first time. First time will always be cumbersome because you have to learn the tools, but in the long run, it will be faster. Something that I'm seeing here is that I'm recommending to have more sections, so to have more items, more subsections. So maybe for each kind of potos, we can also see like what's the right soil, what's the right humidity, what's the right, for each one of them you can give 2 or 3 key bullet points. So when I'm looking at different types of potos, I say, oh, this is a beautiful kind, but can I have it in the weather that I'm on? Can I have this plant in my office? So it's like only indoors and outdoors. Okay, what type of soil to use? How much sun do they need? How much water do they need, right? Now I'm going to give you a breakdown of the SERP for this particular keyword, so you know what's actually going on here with search. Who do we see at the top here? Now remember, this is a keyword that he was number 1 for. So what happened here? We have the spruce, Costa Farms, Brand Natural, Costa Farms. Again, interesting. Didn't Google say a million years ago that this wouldn't happen again, to have a double ranking? Interesting. In general, what I'm seeing is very high DR websites. Then this Rosy Soil, which is again another e-commerce, is ranking for this, and he is after the entire thing. Here, after Reddit, with a random content, Epic Garden in the Nature of Home. And he has accrued a whole bunch of backlinks to this page. Now, not all of these backlinks are good. I'm going to cover that on the off-page section. But what I wanted to show you here is what happens if I analyze Rafael's piece against the spruce. So Google told you, right, that they were going to whack AI content and that they finally put everyone in prison and there was no escaping it. The AI is too smart. Okay, let's see what we find here. Rafael's piece, which I know will be 100% original, is passing everything here. Some of these, I have maybe halfway confidence. This part here, 70% confidence that it's AI generated. And it's funny because, it's a participant in the Amazon.com Services LLC program. That is for sure human written. Okay, so this is how much you can actually trust these kind of tools, right? Only use them as a very, very soft guidance. If we pass this through what's considered to be the best AI detection tool, which is undetectable, undetectable says, hey, this appears to be human. Okay, it's passing maybe some checks here, copy links, GPT and GPT-0. However, this is an old piece. This piece is pre-AI. When it was number 1, that's when AI was getting its data set. So the chances that AI used Rafael's piece to learn as part of the data set and now is telling us that Rafael's piece is a copy of himself is quite funny. You want to see how I know? Because you can come here to the spruce. Okay. Now, I'm also going to cover what some other sites are doing better that I think we can learn from and implement in this website. They are having here very beautiful breadcrumbs. I am liking. Okay. As the author, published on, and reviewed by somebody else. You don't really have to have that. But other people are going crazy with on-page EAT, saying that all your content has to be peer-reviewed. It doesn't. Medical content, yes. I like to read my medical content if it's been peer-reviewed. Now, they are following a slightly more succinct format, and they're doing this thing, which I think they're doing right. Leaf color, leaf size, light. I mean, I can use my eyes to see this, but in terms of NLP optimization, it's properly done. The fact that all the photographs kind of follow the same visual format and I can read and look at the same time makes the content a little bit easier to digest. They don't have a table of content. They do have an interesting warning here, which I find useful as a user. But the fun part is if I throw this article into Originality.ai, it says that it has a 77% confidence that, 77% of it is AI, which is way more than Rafael's. And if we run it through undetectable, it says, nah, this is AI for show, right? Zero GPT and copylinks are flagging it 0% human, as well as way more pieces flagging this as potentially not human. So it's interesting because this is the current today's ranking after the March update started rolling. If Google was as good as doing the things that they say they do, like spotting AI content and devaluing it and spotting garbage links and discounting them, then we wouldn't see what we see. And this is across the board. I've done the exact same analysis for each one of the three pieces, and in each one of them we're going to learn something about something a little bit different, because this is an article about a narrower subject. The other one is a listicle, so I'm going to cover a few different types of pieces of content so you can learn what's the best format for all of them. Underneath each heading I would have an image, so that's a format that really makes the article very nice and easy to read. Again, I would also like to use landscape formats, so if I'm on mobile and all I can see is the image, it's a nice image, but I might skip through it, right? And this might be maybe a bit much, right? So I would spread out these images maybe throughout the rest of the content. Or you can always put the images in a smaller format and have them maybe side by side. So something that I always like to do, again, is to put heading, photograph, and then text. You can do this as well. Heading, short paragraph, photograph, and then text. One thing that I do notice is a very in-depth piece. In general, his content is very much in-depth. So it'd be best to have more photos and spread them out a bit more. Get also some external photos, clips from Instagram, add them here, make this as media rich as possible. If you have any articles in Instagram or in YouTube that you have here, definitely throw them into the content as well. You will get more followers on your social media channels, but as well, what's going to happen is you're going to get higher dwell time, because if I'm halfway through the article and it says, hey, what does the Monstera Deliciosa fruit taste like? And you have a video about it where in minute 7 you're talking about that, embedded there, boom, I hit play and watch from minute 7 onwards. I might rewind the whole thing. You get some nice engagement for YouTube, right? And then we get a whole lot more time on site. Now, when we check this article through Search for SEO, we see that in general the article is very well done and has a good score. You will also have some further potential for NLP optimization. So the same kind of stuff, right? Ripe fruit mentioned 0 times. That would be worthwhile having. Monstera Deliciosa, you would think that mentioning 12 times is too many, but in principle you can go a whole very many more times. Same for the entire string Monstera Deliciosa fruit. Edible flesh, indoor plant, and so on and so forth. Scales begin, apparently The only thing that I never follow in a surfer recommendation is when surfer tells me to make my content shorter. I've never followed that. Everything is looking pretty sharp here. Let's have a look at the SERP analysis. So this is the results right now. Planet Natural, Atlas Obscura, this random super weak site with no DR and no backlinks. Another site that I believe is an e-commerce just by the URL, right, with very weak DR. Now, if I compare this with September 10th, right, we see that this completely lost, gone, nowhere, right? Food Republic went down, data, Atlas Obscura up. Then we have the People Also as the first, Planet Natural coming up there, new, Growing Fruit new, Reddit new, like, and you can just go and read this comment here and some of this other content and tell me if it's more in depth than Rafael's. Now, in the subject of AI content, this piece, again, it's an older piece from 2021, right? Originality AI is saying it has a 47% original content and 53% AI. However, Undetectable is saying, nope, this is completely human, right? If we look at Planet Natural, which is the site ranking at the top, we have a lot to learn from Planet Natural. I think the content is actually better in this particular case. But one thing is the content being better, and one thing is, you know, OhioTropics content not being worth being anywhere in the top. If we look at this with Originality.ai, it says that it's for sure AI. And then when we look at it with Undetectable, it says that it appears to be human. How much can you trust these AI detection tools? I'd say not very much. Now, what can we learn from Planet Natural? What are they doing right? Number one, they have very, very, very good navigation here. Very comprehensive with the main categories, the subcategories all added there. Landscaping, composting, soil, pest control, seasonal, news, Q&A. Beautiful. They also have a nice navigational bar here. And something that they do very well is in the section of the site where you're at, that item is highlighted. So that offers a good user experience. If I am in something that belongs to indoor gardenings and landscaping, although that'd be a bit weird, but they say they are, right? So the categorization is a bit, right? But if I'm in trees and shrubs, I want to see that I am there because like, oh, I might click on this category, right? Now, their content is very much in depth and they're doing this very well. And this is what I mentioned earlier, right? Having the botanical name, common name, family, This is really good. This is things that are gonna matter, right? I want to know what kind of soil do I need, and I want to know how much shade do I want. And if I'm in somewhere that uses this, I want to know that this is the right thing. Also, it offers a table of contents that's nicely nested there. And just by looking at the table of contents, you can already tell that this article is going to be very, very much in depth. Matter of fact, you can go. Now, what do I not like? They are using stock images. Stock images will be always flagged as, duplicate images. They don't really make the user experience all that nice because I might have seen this image 50,000 times. I'd rather see first-hand images the way that Rafael is doing it. So, but however, if you notice, they're doing the images way smaller and always in landscape format, which makes the scanning through the content a little bit quicker. I understand that although publishers that are Medivine and all the ad networks, they want to make the content very lengthy, but for the purpose of increasing your RPMs, you might actually hurt the user experience. And so it's finding the right balance because the user experience is what's going to carry over your SEO over the years. Very good section here in general about the soil, the water. Now, what's interesting is that this article is about the Monstera deliciosa fruit, but it's giving you a whole bunch of different things around the soil, fertilizer, etc., in order for the plant to produce more fruit. So not only is covering the most important things about the fruit, the way that OhioTropics did, it's also covering in a very well-structured manner all the things that will affect how much fruit do you get. So when you think about truly answering the question in depth, they're doing a good job there. Something that I find a bit weird is that I also have the how to propagate, which in my opinion would be a separate piece of content. I have how to store it, how to harvest, common pest and plant diseases, which in reality, it would really be a different piece. And then a couple of other guys, an author bio with a few places for sharing, etc. And some other content here. Now, something else that they're doing all right is they look a little bit cleaner, a bit more modern. They're not necessarily a stunning website, but having some of this other stuff here would be nice. And they also have the, you know, the little like count, which adds more social proof. I'm going to look at this site with ads and on Rafael's site with ads. As you notice, I have an ad blocker here because sometimes sites get absolutely insane. So in terms of ads, I'm seeing a sticky unit at the bottom. Now the video is loading. The title looks a bit weird. Please don't autoplay with sound, thank you. The ad units are gigantic, so that's not going to make a great user experience, even though the ads that are loading are quite small. And it seems to have an okay ad density. After every other image, we have an ad. Can be a bit much, but don't make it unusable. Okay, so something to notice here, because this site has Mediavine ads on, which I'm extremely familiar with. When this wants to load, I'll show you. So it has this unit here that I've never liked since the day one that it was introduced by Mediavine, because number one, ad blockers are going to block it. And it adds a whole bunch of content here. It doesn't really give me that much control on what I link to. And in general, it's too small. And it kind of like looks annoying. Then we also see one unit here, and now the recommended. But as you remember, the recommended was blocked because I had an ad blocker. So that's not the right way to do it. I would do this as a hard-coded thing. Then he also has the subscribe box here, which is going to appear, which is fine, right? But if you think of it, most people on desktop will have an ad blocker, on mobile not so much. So the sidebar will be seen on desktop. If I have an ad blocker, I'm not going to see the sidebar, right? And so this sticky unit is fine. It's one of the best performing units on desktop, always on Mediavine, right? I think the ad density is a little bit over the top. Like in general, like it's always annoying to see an ad on the content and another ad here. And like if at any point, at what zoom I'm in, 100% zoom, yeah. If at any point I can see two ads, like how much real content is there here? Not so much, right? So I think the ad density is a little bit too strong, in combination with having to do a lot of scroll for going past some of these images, which I might find useful, right? But I might not want to see that big. Maybe use an image that's cropped here where I just see the fruit, right? Pulled there, that will be plenty, right? This photo could also be cropped. So the very nice photography. That's one of those things that is very tricky for creators, because the amount of effort that goes into a piece like this is very high. The originality of the content is fantastic. All these different things, you know, I can really see the plant, but it's always finding the right balance between showing the expertise and creating high quality content that is enjoyable, and following the principles of how people really consume content. That's always very tricky. I would say in general, there's a few too many ads for my taste. And then we have this related content here, but again, it's added via Mediavine plugin. It's all part of the Threadless framework. In general, I've never been a fan, right? It's not bad. It solves a lot of problems for creators because it makes it very easy for them, but I've never been a big fan. And it's just like it's making the site very cumbersome right now to work through it. Okay, next we're gonna look at this third piece that was one of the ones that dropped the most. Very similar flow of content. Okay, good table of contents here at the top. I like 6 ways to propagate. Good. I don't normally add like table of contents as a heading, so that's important because in and of itself is gonna load as a heading. You see, table of contents in and of itself loads as a heading. When you add it through a plugin, it just adds it there where you can show in some devices it shows expanded, in some devices it shows contracted, right? And you can show which depth of headings to show. Something else to notice here is the post navigation, and these two things that he has on the sidebar are loading as headings because they are set as headings. So that's going to be something that messes up with the document in and of itself. I would make this just plain text. Okay, we have water propagation, good photography that illustrates the point, some more images. I wouldn't repeat the image here. I understand the point is to zoom in and show you the little roots growing, but I can already see it here on this first image. I would never have a section without an image. So if you can, always add different images, different sections. This is all fine, pretty good content, no problem here. And the rest is just the same stuff that we've covered everywhere else. Something else that I've stopped doing in all the sites that I manage is comments. Now, he has a very long list of comments here that will illustrate that, you know, there is engagement on the page and so forth. Some people will read it, but because it just becomes a long wall of text, normally what I would do with this kind of content is whatever is that people are asking, I would either, boom, add it to the actual content, have it addressed there on the content, or address it on a video and then slap the video from YouTube directly on the content, and then eventually just remove all the comments. The problem with comments is you don't control what people text. So when somebody leaves a comment like this, whatever they say, like milkweed type feathers, if they say, you know, string of hearts 17 times, that messes us your NLP optimization, the density of all the entities in the page. So I don't like comments anymore, plus their work. Let's look at the SERP. This should be a very easy keyword to rank for. And who do we see? We see the spruce. We see him on YouTube. Beautiful. Weak side. Raphael here with the stronger side with the same page that should have the video that goes here on this page to make both stronger and nicer. And then Reddit, of course, because people love Reddit over people that have 3 published books on the subject. Of course, somebody asking for this will know best, right? So in general, I would say don't trust too much what you are hearing from Google in terms of what's going to happen to the SERPs. Just continue doing the basics very, very well. Implement everything that you see in videos like this, and you will see your site going up. Something that we do see in this piece is that there's a lot of room for improvement here. So we can add more internal links, of course, that's always going to be an option. And there's a whole lot in the NLP optimization that we can be doing to make this piece a little bit better. All right, so Originality.ai now is saying that this thing that before said was completely original content, now 50% confidence that it's AI, but at least 50% original, 45% original. Now, undetectable, it's saying that this is for sure human. And let's look at the piece that is outranking, which is, again, from the spruce. They are doing the same things, right, that they're doing in the other one. I like this little in this article format of the table of contents. I also like this little project overview with any articles that is how to, you want to add this and you want to make sure that you have how to schema in place. Always the what you'll need, materials, etc. So this is a very well structured piece in terms of the schema. So there's something to be learned here. Always for a how to have the equipment, tools, materials, etc. and have how to schema. And also follow step-by-steps listed with images. This is a good piece of content from the point of view of how it's optimized for SEO. Has more content here, pretty good. I like also the visual display of this. However, when we run it through an AI checker, it's less original. Although Undetectable seems to believe that is more human, although if it passes fewer checks. So in summary, what do we see here from reviewing all these pieces of content? Lots of room for improvement by making the content a bit more user-friendly, by making some images landscape, by adding a proper table of contents, adding more headings, running through Surfer SEO. Now, the problem is when you have 370 pieces of content on your website, which pages do you start optimizing first? How to optimize, we've already covered on this video. There's a very clear list. The way I prioritize whenever I do a managed SEO campaign or I'm working in any of my own websites that may be a little bit outdated is I do a full-blown content audit just like this. I get every single URL on the site, I get the title, meta description, and basically every single metric that matters. I get if there's any issues, how long is the H1s, do we have multiple H1s, are any images missing alt text? Here we see a lot of images missing alt text, so that's a great place for us to start fixing. The question is, again, which post, right? So I'm always going to look at the distribution of traffic here. Any articles that are getting good organic traffic are going to be obviously very high priority pieces to make sure that they stay receiving high amounts of organic traffic. So whatever I win on one end, I don't lose it on the other end. Then I'm also going to look at any content that gets a lot of direct sessions. Now, with direct traffic, you have to be mindful. Sometimes it's just analytics not having enough data because of the cookie down that happens. Any content getting good amount of traffic from social media, I want to work on that as well, although here we don't seem to be getting proper tracking on this. Then I always get my engagement metrics. I couldn't get the bounce rate properly extracted, but we have a different tab here that has all the engagement data separately, so we can look into that later. Then I always want to see how much engagement any of these pages is getting and how long do people spend reading. So in terms of user engagement, he seems to be getting a lot of really good engagement. Also, some of this content has tons and tons of shares. So you would think, right, some content that's getting so many shares should be doing well. And in fact, some of these pieces are. Something that I always look into is what's the trend. So I see some pieces have lost a lot of ground in comparison to the previous month. This is when we pulled the data just about a week ago. But not that many. Most pieces are doing okay when we compare on a 30-day time span. Now, when we look year over year, this is where we can very quickly identify which are the biggest losers. And then when we combine these, when what was any of these pieces last modified. So for instance, for the, what's this piece again? For this piece here, Monstera Silpecana care article, it's been losing traffic month over month. It lost a lot of traffic against the previous year. It still gets decent volume of search traffic. The CTR is very low, so we know, okay, the positions aren't going to be very good. We can definitely optimize the title and meta description. We can give it a nice spruce up because the article has not been reviewed in almost 2 years. The way to really arrange this is I always want to look at what's the pieces that are getting me right now the most amount of traffic. These aren't the first pieces that I'll work on, particularly if they're ranking at the top for the main terms. What I do is I do a combination of a whole bunch of these different metrics here, and that gives me an opportunity score. And what I do is I flip this around, and that gives me the highest amount of opportunity for my potential work. So if we look, for instance, here, this Alocasia types page, we know that we're ranking number 5 for a keyword that has really good search volume. Same for these ones. All these keywords have fantastic search volume, and we're somewhere around the top, right? So then I know, okay, what else do we have? Okay, these articles are losing ground year over year, right? Some of them are also losing ground month over month. Some of these articles I haven't reviewed in years, right? So this is when I look at my own sites, but when I treat client sites like they were my own, basically. And then I also know, okay, some of these are still getting good organic traffic. So if we're getting good organic traffic at a loss comparatively year over year, and some of this content is outdated, and it's gonna have a whole bunch of different issues, of course, because when we look here, we've already accounted for all of this, right? It's gonna have different issues there. Then I do a review of the content in the same way that I did on the video earlier before. When I run it through Surfer SEO, I compare it against the top pieces that are outranking me right now, and I learn, okay, this article is doing this, and that better, it's more user-friendly. Let me shrink my images, let me add more images, let me add more headings, let me expand the content, let me add NLP optimization. Let's make sure that my schema is on point. That's all I do whenever I work on my site or any client sites, to make sure that I start working on the content that has the highest opportunity for me. Because when you have a site with this many pages, 370 pages of content, right? Let's say in a given month, if you dedicate each piece a full 1 hour of dedicated work to improve it, to add new images, to implement everything that Alejandro is teaching you in this video, how many pieces can you do realistically in a week if this is all you do? Let's say it probably take you 2 hours per piece. You can do like 20 pieces, right? So if you devote an entire month of your life, of like a full-blown, 8 hours a day of exclusively doing this, which by the time that you finish doing it, your brain will be pouring out of your ears, it'll still take you a month to go through 40, 60 pieces of content on your website. Now, congratulations, you have 360. And this is a small site. I work with publishers that have 5,000 pieces of content, 12,000 pieces of content on their website because they've been publishing for 20 years, right? So it's very important that, one, we first implement all the site-wide fixes that we can do. For that, we're going to come back to the action plan. Again, what do we have here? Okay, so adjust the headings that are capitalized. We can run a scan with a script, find all the headings, have them rewritten, no problem. Can we do a custom website design that looks nice and modern, that gets better navigation? Can we fix the menu? That's side-wide beautiful. Can we get a very nice design and layout? Continue improving the engagement that will get us more shares, more trust, more legitimacy, that will in general make RankBrain happier? Yes, we can. Can we make the site faster? Even if it's by 50 milliseconds for the time to first byte, we'll make the entire site more optimal. You get more crawl budget. More crawl budget means more love. That's a side-wide fix. Can we add a table of contents side-wide with just a simple plugin? Yes, we can. Can we add the reading time to our content just with a plugin? Yes, we can. Can we fix the alt text in the entire site? Yes, we can. There's a plugin for that, right? Can we fix the crawl depth issues, which is a side-wide problem that will make your entire content more discoverable? Yes, we can, with good navigation and good widgets on the sidebar and the footer that don't get blocked by ad blockers, because when the JavaScript isn't rendered, then you got problems. And then we come to the list of all the content, and then we go page by page, making it better. But first, always implement whatever is side-wide, because those are your largest wins. This covers technical issues, right, which we've found here. This covers a whole bunch of technical and on-page stuff. Beautiful, right? We know that, for instance, we can add social media links with the follower count in the footer and in the header in the same way that the Spruce is doing it, right? What matters is when you see that Rafael has 200,000 subscribers on Instagram, you probably want to click there and go and follow him too, right? Because also, like, the Instagram content is really, really good. I would definitely add a bar like that at the top of the page and also in the footer. Definitely fix the social media links on the author page. Embed more of your own content if you have it in social media in your content. You want to embed your own YouTube videos, whatever Instagram post that you have, you can embed somebody else's, but you can add yours. That's best, right? So talking about hierarchies, right? This is what I've done. I'm going to show you the exact prompt that I've used to have ChatGPT help me come up with a much better navigation for this website. This is the super simple prompt that I use to have ChatGPT give me some very good ideas on how to best optimize navigation on content websites. Give me a cascading list of main subjects with sub-subjects and sub-sub-subjects for this website. Name of the website, be academically accurate. That's it. And then it's going to read into it and it's going to give you the whole thing in nice cascading order. Okay, main subject, indoor plant care. Then we got house plant car care. And then for specific plants, based on the content that he covers, he definitely talks about aloe plants, pothos, Hoyas, orchids, and succulents, right? So if I want to see light requirements, water, soil, common pests, because let's say I'm concerned about soil, I might have my plants in the wrong soil, or I'm going to go to the nursery to buy soil for a whole bunch of plants that I might have ordered online. That is the section of content that I want to read. But if I just went and I bought 12 different pothos varieties because I want to make a whole display on my living room, what should I know? If you make my life easy for me to go and find the content, I'll be very happy as a user. But not only that, when you structure the content in this way, you set up all the entities in a way it's semantically grouped together. That is going to make your site easier to understand for search engines as well. Then you recreate all of these things here that we have into categories, subcategories, and sub-subcategories. And then you have your breadcrumbs display all of that for each one of these. You create a landing page. So for houseplant care tips, you can have all your content within houseplant care tips nested there in a feed. And at the top, you can ask ChatGPT, hey, give me a summary of the most important things that you see on this page once you have the feed. And it's going to pull from your own content and it's going to give you all these page talks about this. And it's going to give you a chunk like this of content. Then you run it through undetectable.ai, you run it through Originality.ai, you give it your own flair, your own spin, and then boom, you can also have a category page that can potentially rank for houseplant care tips, which is a very broad keyword. But not just that, it also makes the general user experience navigating through a site like this so much more enjoyable. Okay, so now that I've covered these links, what do we look for whenever I'm auditing the backlink profile of a website? Number one, do they have a disavow file? If so, I want to take that into account. No disavow has been submitted here because, again, this is not a section that this particular publisher had in his radar because he's not been doing any active link building. He's never engaged in any sort of link exchange, any of the other stuff, right? He's just been publishing great content, appearing in the news, getting a massive following from social media, and naturally attracting tons of backlinks. The problem is when you naturally attract tons of backlinks, you will also naturally attract tons of garbage links. And even though Google tells you that they ignore most of the link spam and you don't have to worry, and don't really use the disavow tool because it's a risky one, you don't believe me? This is a piece from Search Engine Journal where John Mueller has been telling publishers for the longest time that random links collected over the years aren't necessarily harmful. We've seen them a long time ago. We know everything. We can ignore them. Well, professional experience and professional tools don't really agree with Mr. Mueller. This is what the single most comprehensive backlink analysis tool in the market right now has to say about this. This tool costs about €1,000 a month to run. And you can see here that it says that this site has a high domain toxicity risk. Now it has links from a whole bunch of different sources, including links from what's suspicious to be PBNs. I know for a fact that the publisher has never engaged into any of these, and this is the reality. When you get a lot of traffic and a lot of #1 positions, a lot of new websites will link to you as a source for their new content, including good websites and crappy ones. Crappy sites that publish a piece of content on a PBN to link to somebody that actually paid for the PBNs, because PBNs aren't free. You might be quoted as one of those external authority links within the piece of content, so it's not so obvious that the other person got a PBN link. Okay, and that's the way it works. So over the years, between Web 2.0s and PBNs and all these different things, a lot of legitimate publishers accrue an entire pile of garbage links that maybe could, given them this much page rank for a little bit of a boost, at the expense of really accumulating a lot of domain toxicity. This has been tested time and time again. Every site has a determinate threshold on how much garbage links they can accumulate before the weight pulls them down. And these, I've done tons of disavows where a disavow was all I did and the site immediately went up. Now, there is a cost to that. Whenever you disavow links that are very high toxicity and basically are all sending wrong signals. I'm going to go in a bit of a deeper explanation here. So this is a different export that I've done of all the links that this site gets. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of .blogspot.com garbage sites like wiring diagrams, poker Texas Hold'em, blah, blah, blah. All these sites have very low DR. They don't have any referring domains pointing to them. Definitely, they don't have any trusted governmental or educational links pointing to them. They link to tons of websites. Like, why would these, Grand Panichat site link to 60,000 websites, or Madame Vivon, a site with no traffic whatsoever, with nobody linking to them, links to 74,000 sites? Because it's spam. Now, this is the spam that Google tells you as a publisher that they can ignore because it's just graffiti on the walls. The reality is, when you accumulate 7,000 layers of graffiti in your wall, the paint might crumble the whole thing down. And definitely your house won't look clean. And when you have a house that doesn't look clean, people maybe don't want to go into it. Think about that. So this is what I wanted to show you. If we come down here to the entire list, yes, this is thousands of domains, by the way. Right? What is these flags that I'm using here? Well, this flag system is one that I use that is very straightforward. You can use it with a simple export of your backlink profile from Ahrefs. Basically, look at the domain rating of the sites linking to you. Look at how many domains link to them. Look at how many keywords they rank for, and look at how much traffic they get. Under 200 in any of these columns, with under 10 in this column, and under 50 here equals caca. And we don't want caca, right? We want good links. Now, this site ranks for a bunch of keywords and it starts to get some traffic, which is interesting because when you look at some of the other metrics, this one is the other one that I consider the most important. And this is the highest telltale. CrazyJamaica.com, I'm not even going to open it, links to more than 250,000 websites for a site that has no traffic, and it ranks for a handful of keywords, but this is a garbage site. Okay. So the site here doesn't really link to that many domains. It links to 49 domains and it only has 8 links. So maybe this is a new up and coming website and I don't want to disavow it. Maybe it's just a very new website. Funny enough, I open this site and say, oh, this looks good. Blog, have services. Interesting. What services do they have? Oh, they do consultation, nutrition guidance. Okay, cool. Okay. Now, if this is your AI site, I'm very sorry to show it on a video. But also, like, this is an AI site. Okay. All these images are AI generated. And Aria Moreno, Emma Greenway, and Liam Foster don't exist. Anyone with a sharp eye can tell that this is AI generated images. Now, they're doing a pretty good job at building sites. Okay. Whoever's behind this knows what they're doing. And you can click here, and this is snake plant care guide. And at the beginning of this video, I'll show you one snake plant. I've seen enough snake plants in my life to tell that these are AI snake plants. Something about it doesn't feel right. Something about it. Now, this is well-built content that has a progress bar that tells you how deep you are, watering the snake plant. I've never seen a variegation like this. Blah blah blah. Further reads a whole bunch of well-built internal links. It has external links, data. The problem is, other than the fact that I show you in a public video, any site like this is the kind of sites that are actually being targeted on this update. If this site or any site like this gets whacked and you get a link from it, you don't get a link from a good neighbor. Right? So you don't want sites like this linking to you. You don't want sites like that, and you don't want sites like most of this list here. So I would suggest that this publisher to do a very in-depth cleanup of the backlink profile, starting with a simple cleanup of all these domains here. I've already prepared a simple disavow file for the publisher here that he can use. Just copy this entire list into a simple txt file, upload it to this tool, and he should be good to go, because that's pure spam links. I think the dead weight of the bad links, in combination with some of the other issues in the technical SEO and the potential for on-page optimization, it's really what's encumbering this site down. The site is very helpful, but it has to be helpful in the ways that Google wants to see it. Now, what else do we have? Because one thing is removing, but then we have to acquire backlinks. Backlinks make the web spin. Backlinks makes websites rank. Simple as that. So, what links have we lost? That's the quickest way to start. In the last year, already for sites that have some legitimacy, so OKDR with at least some visitors, 100 visitors or more, there's been 88 links that this publisher has lost. Many of them in content, very good links, right? Like this gardening know-how. Hey, I want to have a link from gardening know-how. If I have a gardening site, I want to have a do follow link from a start story, right? That links to me with a brand name. That, like, this is a fantastic link. Foliage friend, fantastic. I want to have that link, right? And all these sites are from pages. The pages themselves have traffic and rank for keywords. So those are good links, right? Some of these other links, not so good, right? So matter of going through all these different domains and seeing which one of them are worthwhile, reaching back to the publisher, the owner that runs this site. You can always find them using something like hunter.io. You can find the email addresses of all these people. You can find them on LinkedIn if they're legitimate sites. Send them a quick pitch. Hey, you used to link to me here. Maybe not here. I don't know why it links to Rafael with scam. That doesn't sound right. But you know, for gardening know-how, start the story, and foliage friend, I would definitely find, you know, the people running those websites. Send them a quick email, send them a DM on Instagram, particularly when you have an account like this large, have the blue check, have all the good stuff. Reach out to them on Instagram and they're like, hey, you used to link back to me here. Hey, can you add me again to your resources? And sometimes like they want to do like, oh yeah, cool. Hey, you want to come to our podcast, right? And then you get even more love. So always be recovering the lost links. This is a check that I run for my manager SEO clients. Whenever I see that any good links are lost, I always go and try and recover them. Something else that you can do is set up a Google alert. You can simply come to google.com/alerts and enter with your own account the name of the property, your own name, or any other main keywords that maybe when it's featured, you want to be there for it. If it's a very narrow niche keyword that nobody mentions, if someone puts that, maybe you want to be there. So if someone says SEO audit, maybe I want to be there and go and reach out to those people and says, hey, I do fantastic audits, you know? And then you have here the language, select all the languages, sources, automatic, all the regions, etc. And you'll see here, you get a feed of all the places where your brand has been mentioned. So any of these places, like green matters, right? So you can look at all these different sites and says, hey, did they link to me on this article? Because if they didn't, reach out to them and says, hey, can you put a link to my site there? Simple, they've already mentioned you, they just have to ask for the actual backlink. Now, if we go back to my SEO checklist, you'll see there's a few other things here that we can do. So we can get citations if we run a local business and we don't have them. That's very easy. There's a lot of services there, legitimate services that will get you in relevant business listings. That's important. If you're a business, of course, you want to have Transpilot, all these different things, right? You can always get a list of all the high DR links pointing to the competition and go and reach out to those people. Says, hey, you want to link to me? Simple, right? Do it only for legitimate sites. We'll do a full video on website due diligence to know which sites are worthwhile getting a link from and which sites you want to even bother, right? As you can see here, this is all coming from my list, right? So set up what it's about. Set up Google Alerts, create a Hunter.io account, and get email addresses from people that you want to get links from, right? Something else that is very important to do is leveraging your email list. There's a couple of reasons for this. Google loves it when you send traffic from somewhere else into a site that has ads that are part of the Google ad network because it makes them money. Double thumbs up. Also, your media buying network will love it because you get more ad revenue, so you will love it. But also users will get engagement on brand new pieces that you just publish. So you get early engagement, you feed signals into RankBrain. RankBrain will have a very easy time, one, indexing your content, right? That's not RankBrain, but and also figuring out what your content is about, how good is the engagement, etc. And you will very quickly jump on the top results. Something else that you can always do, particularly for a publication like this where you have a digital product that you can actually monetize very well, is run ads. Running Google Ads for one, your brand name, but also if somebody's looking for houseplant care tips, you can run an ad that goes to a landing page for your book. Running Google Ads is one of the most efficient ways to make your SEO better. If you don't believe me, run a campaign, pay Google money, and somehow your SEO becomes better. There's multiple reasons for that, of course. One is you can gather a whole bunch of titles and meta descriptions and headlines and so forth. So if you run ads for certain keywords, you can see which one of those is getting the highest engagement and conversions within Google Ads, and then you can modify your titles and your meta descriptions to be the same. Plus you get two results there, the organic one, and you get some traffic from search through the ad into the page, and that will boost the page up in more ways than one. So to summarize, after 30-something hours of auditing the website and an hour and a half of reviewing the audit, we are left with an actionable list of 22 main points to work on to improve traffic, improve monetization, recover lost rankings, get better user engagement, present the brand better, and just in general know what to do to get out of a rut whenever your site gets hit. If you want me to audit your site and give you something like this for way cheaper than it should be, get in touch with me today. Thank you very much, and God bless.